not all money is good money. Sometimes you might partner with a funder that's just not the right funder for you. That's not going to do your organization good. They could do more harm to your organization. So I think it's really important, and nonprofits are clear about what they need in support, clear about what they can give, clear about how they can report in order to make sure it's a relationship that is valuable.
Hey, I'm John.
And I'm Becky.
And this is the We Are For Good podcast.
Let's get started.
Hey, Becky, what's happening?
I'll tell you what's happening. We are beyond thrilled to welcome and introduce you to Gloria Dixon. She is the Director of Philanthropy at BECU and Executive Director of the BECU Foundation. And Gloria is just this unique genius because she champions like a more human-centered, trust-based approach to philanthropy. We talk about this on the podcast all the time. I mean, this is a philanthropy style that reduces burden, it strengthens relationships, and it supports these larger long-term investments. And so she's here on the pod today. She's going to give us a behind-the-scenes look at what funders are seeing, what nonprofits need to know, and how both sides can come together to work more authentically and sustainably to meet this moment of evolution. We are sitting in the moment, and it is a chance to lean in. So Gloria, we are so excited you're here. Get in our house and teach us all the things, please.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
We got to get to know you. We want to know the human behind the voice, and we want to know about like little Gloria. Where did you grow up, and how did you like grow into this impact work?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question, because I came to this work because of how I grew up and where I grew up. So I'm not from Washington State. I'm currently based we're headquartered in Tukwila, Washington, which is not too far from Seattle. But I'm not from Washington. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And if you know anything about Milwaukee or pretty much the Midwest, it can be a very segregated area. So, each community has its own community. Blacks live this area, white people live here, Asians live here, Hispanics live here. And I grew up on the side of the city where it was a little bit more diverse. And my mother did that very purposely because she wanted to make sure that her children had a very diverse upbringing. She sent me to schools on the south side of Milwaukee, which was heavily predominantly white when I was growing up. So I didn't grow up going to school with a lot of people that looked like me. And that, of course, shaped a lot of who I am and how I view the world. And there were some negative experiences that I had to go through, some challenges. But at the same time, as I look back at it now, and those challenges that little Gloria grew up with also changed me and made me into a more thoughtful person when I think about other communities and other cultures, that everyone has a story, everyone has their situation. And maybe you don't look like them, but that doesn't mean that you don't share some same social dynamics or socioeconomic dynamics that have influenced who you are or make you able to take care of your family. Mm-hmm. So, my experience, while unique, isn't unique per se. I think I value it so much because it's made me a better philanthropist today.
I mean, thank you for taking us back. I mean, it definitely comes through in how you're serving in the world today, just from your lived experience and like the values that you uphold as well. And so we're really excited about this conversation because your position, I think, is really unique. We have heard over the years this wonderful quote that I think of often from our friend Yada Peng. She says, money moves at the speed of trust. And we come back to that all the time. And I think as we think about how nonprofit funding is evolving, what a headline, right? It's always evolving. Some of the core stuff is the same. Like we move money in the directions of where we feel trust and where we know that we have trust. So I'm curious, from your vantage point, where do you see the biggest disconnect right now from what nonprofits need and how funding is currently structured? Like, where's that disconnect?
I think with a lot of funders, and there's so much work that funders need to do on our end in order to, qualify or justify how we're moving money for the organizations we work with. I'm very fortunate that I work at a credit union. Credit unions are built by the community. They are member owned. So therefore, the trust that we already have in the community was there because of how credit unions are started. We live by the purpose of people helping people. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to qualify the same way some of my peers who work in corporate environments do, because they have to align it with, not the BECU doesn't my work doesn't align with BCU's mission and purpose, but not the same way someone in a corporate structure may have to align it with the business purpose of the organization, So a lot of times when nonprofits are coming into, asking money from corporations, it is really, does it align with our business? Whereas I work in a place where does it align with our members and our community needs? So the disconnect happens with corporate structures and nonprofits because there's a business case that needs to be met, whereas the community may be like, well, we don't know nothing about the business. We just know we need help.
Right.
And in the case with BCU, I'm very fortunate. For us, the business case is the people. The business case is our members. The business case is the community. So therefore, it's my work. I get fortunate to be able to do the work based on what the needs of the community are.
I love that reframe. It's a really powerful reframe because when you put the power in the hands of community rather than the business outcomes, that creates a whole other human impact. And I'm just really, really curious about how has BECU adapted your funding approach in response to, so many emerging needs that we didn't even know were going to happen this year. We didn't know what were going to happen during COVID. And it just feels like funders are having to pivot so often to meet the demands of the sector. And so what's been your approach?
One of the things that's been unique is that, so when I started at BCU, I was the first person in a role at BCU where it was my job day in, day out to do our community-based work. So this was back in 2017 when I started at BCU, and the work has slowly evolved over time. And for a time, it was like this little pocket of work that I did over here. But what we're starting to see and starting to employ, and it kind of organically happened with our employees going out doing so much in the community, our business units, from our business service team to our mortgage team to our product team, reaching out to me saying, hey, we're doing this stuff. We know it's a community partner. How do we work with them? So it organically happened where my work now is flowing through a lot of the systems at BECU that maybe you wouldn't traditionally think were working together. Like I'm working with our mortgage team on how do we build a program, a housing program that not only aligns to the needs of our community for the general population, but also our members can get support at the same way, Or we're working with our product team. We opened a partnership in Spokane with Scale House Market, which is the first ever indoor-outdoor marketplace. Our product team stepped in and brought in a point of sales operation. So we aligned with that. We're doing the same thing with our business service team. We did a partnership with the Hyatt where we were trying to get more small businesses into the supply chain. Our business service team was on hand offering support and advice. So we're aligning all of our systems so that we're not siloed, so that we all going in the same direction, doing the same work, focus on supporting our members and our community. So like I said, it organically happened, but it's actually a lot of fun figuring out, well, how do we work? What are you doing? Let's figure out how can we do this together for a bigger impact?
Hey friend, taking a quick pause to share about some of our amazing partners. Meet GiveButter, RKD Group, Whiteboard, and so on. These aren't just amazing partners for We Are For Good, they're value-aligned allies who are fueling and growing the Impact Uprising, and so of course we want you to know them. So if you are looking for a new CRM or a fundraising or marketing partner, maybe an impact strategist or a creative team, we'd love to make a warm introduction for you to one of our trusted partners. They happen to be powered by amazing humans too. You can check them out at weareforgood.com/Rex. That's weareforgood.com/RECS. Gloria, this is one of our bailiwicks around here. We wanted to break down walls. We believe that We Are For Good is still a place where it's not just silos, echo chambers, sharing the same old playbooks, but everyone has something to contribute. And those perspectives make it so much more dynamic. I'm curious how you view multi-year funding. I love that you lean into the flexibility of that it's not just a nice to have, but using your word structural again, why is that a structural necessity to lean into multi-year funding from your perspective?
So interesting. When I started in 2017. One of the first on my own projects from the director, because I was a manager at the time, was Seattle was starting the Seattle Promise, which ensures 2 years of pre-college for students that graduate from high school in Seattle area.
Dang.
And
Awesome.
so a lot of the funding they got came from a levy on soda tax. So there's a tax on sugary drinks. And so they were able to utilize that money to pay for it. But what they needed to do, because that levy only lasted, I think, 7 years, afterwards they needed to have funds to make sure they can continue the program. So they went out to corporate funders and asked for support. And my boss was like, hey, you go ahead and handle this. So we made our first ever BECU's ever large multi-year commitment, which was 1.5 million or 1.1 million for 7 years. And now that 7 years, this is the last year of that 7 year. We just went to a celebration just earlier this month for that 7 year commitment. And even though the levy has been extended, they now also have this huge pot of money from folks, not just like BECU, but other funders to continue and add additional wraparound services for the students as they go into college. Because students need more than just money for college. They may be struggling with food insecurity. They may be struggling with housing issues or any other number of healthcare, being for healthcare. They have a lot of other needs. So our dollars can now be used in tandem with all this extra money to take care of all those additional services. So I've always been a big fan of multi-year because the work isn't 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. It's multiple years to see generations of students or individuals and families continue to be successful and to grow.
If I had a way to drop the meme in here of the standing Oscar ovation picture, I would do that because I want to point out that I think this is so much the way. This is actually not just where the money is moving, but this is where business is moving. And I want to point out something that I noticed is a difference in what you're doing. When you come in with this trust-based mentality and you're working and co-creating with community, rather for community, you get these nuances into what's actually needed. And then the relationship is not transactional. It's not about, here's your funding for 1 year. It's like, oh, wait a minute. There are wraparound issues. There are deeper issues. And when you're really listening and you can see that, oh, it's more than just, we've got to pay for these kids at school. We've got to think about their food. We got to think about their books. We got to think about how we success plan them to grad school or to careers or whatever that is. And when you have trust-based relationships, that's the gold that reaps from those seeds because you're tilling the soil together and you're building that soil. And so that's what I think is so extraordinary about what you're doing in your part of the world and what I think is a great unlock right now. So let's double down into this. From your perspective, Gloria, where do funders unintentionally create the most friction for nonprofits?
It's hard because reporting can be very daunting for nonprofit organizations. And I'm not saying that we don't need to do reporting. Absolutely. We need to understand the trends, what's happening, how is our money being used. Of course, we need all those things. But a lot of times funders are not giving the entirety of funding for a project or initiative. We may be part of a puzzle that has 100 funders in there. And so if I'm an organization and I gave $10,000, a funder, I gave $10,000, and I need them to give me this huge report with all these different facts, figures, questions, whatnot, that can be very daunting because nonprofits are usually run by very, very small staff. And so for them to be able to report out to the specific needs of every funder can be very difficult and hard for them. I think there's other ways that funders need to try to figure out how to get what they need from nonprofits. For us, it comes in the way of storytelling. I can't imagine there's one partner that BECU has that I could not email right now and say, hey, we need you to attend this event with us and tell your story. We need you to send us over video or photos of some stuff you've been working on. Because we take so much time with our partners ahead of time to get to know them, to believe that they're the right partner for us, that we trust them before we give them the money. So then when we come back and ask for the things we need, it's very easy for them because we already made sure that partner can do that kind of work for us. So a lot of times we just can't let the numbers be the only way we determine how to qualify the money or qualify the relationship or anything related to the partnership. Sometimes you need to figure out another way. And I think storytelling, pictures and videos, I think letting them be in a space with you and tell their story is a great way for you to really build a relationship and not make it so hard.
Okay, apparently I'm just going to come up behind Gloria and point out everything brilliant that she's doing. One, for anyone who is a funder listening to this podcast, I want to make sure that we lift the power of trust-based philanthropy, unrestricted giving, and multi-year funding. And you are modeling all of that. But the last thing I want to point out is that when you go to your funders asking for currency that is not financial, meaning, can you help me with sharing, your story, sharing this post, showing up here, you're giving your partners more value beyond the money to say, you're actually deeper than just a financial partner. You're a storyteller with us. You're an ambassador with us. You're part of the network flywheel effect. And I think that is powerful too. John, what are you noticing?
It's a partnership. It's the power dynamics, because I hear you, Gloria, talking about you have built trust with those that you're investing in. Like it's bi-directional, which I think is beautiful. And I think, we've got a lot of folks listening to the podcast that are your nonprofit leaders. There's some small shops represented, of course, but everyone's thinking about, how do I build trust with partners and funders? And we have a literal funder on the line today. So I'm really curious about what's a trust-based practice that y'all have implemented at BECU that really has transformed your relationship with your nonprofit partners. What did that teach you? And what's something that others could model?
So we have this program called the People Up and People Awards. And that's run by our community engagement team. And that is our members who nominate nonprofits that they either spend their time, they donate, they feel very passionate about. And this year alone, we had 700 applications, non-duplicated, from our members, the nonprofits they care about. We dwindled that down to 18 organizations who receive awards. But what we do afterwards is we allow our nonprofits to all be during the award program, they're all in the room together. We make sure that we have ample opportunity for them to engage each other through listing them on our website. We had a program called Collaboration Grants where we would tell these nonprofits, hey, look at this list of other nonprofits. Who do you think you could work with? Who can you build a partnership with together? Because we know that our nonprofits, a lot of them are doing very similar work. Sometimes they're doing the same work. But there's nuances to it. And these nonprofits are like, you know what, if you do this and I do that, we could have a bigger reach, a bigger impact. And so we want our partners to not just be our partners, but partners within each other. We ran a housing stability grant and a green equity grant around waste renewal, recycling, workforce development, and entrepreneurship in this green space. And so we ran that through the BECU Foundation. These were two separate tracks of grants, housing stability and the green grants. And we brought together a meeting at the end of our cycle, our 2-year cycle, for all those nonprofits to be in the same room. They spent more time talking to each other than talking to us because they were so excited to talk to each other and say, you know what, let's partner, let's collaborate, let's do something together. Like for us, that's like really the thing that comes out that you're like, that is unheard of. The nonprofits work together because, they have to fight for the same philanthropic dollars. They have to fight for the same funding dollars. But there was none of that when you actually get them in the room. They just really wanted to see good out of the work that they were doing. And so they built partnerships together, and we funded a number of those.
Collaboration over competition every time.
The entire impact team across BECU, one of the things that, and maybe you asked me a question, but I'll just share it now. One of the things that I absolutely love is BECU's employees. Oh my God, they give so much of their time back in the community. I have some BECU employees that I'm like, you're in the community more than I am. And they work in a totally separate role. Like they spend so much time giving back to the community. We get CTO, community time off dollars, and people use them. They use that time off. And they are out in the community, volunteering, giving back, serving on boards. Our employees are amazing. So, we model what we see in philanthropy, and we see it across our organization. I have a number of employees in my inbox right now say, hey, I got an organization I want you to talk to. Hey, there's an organization I want you to learn about. I've heard about amazing nonprofits through other employees who are now long-term partners of ours. So we're not the only ones. It's like a way of life at BECU that everyone's just trying to do the best good. So it's so easy to do this work. I work in an amazing organization with amazing people, leadership that supports us. It's a great place to work.
I've got a pennant behind me called Culture is Brand. And it's like, if your culture is that vibrant that your employees are banging down the doors to help connect you to their favorite causes, that is a vibrant culture. And the We Are for Good team is currently obsessed with CTO, community time off. Can we regulate that and get that mandatory for every company to require their employees to get out and be a part of the community? So, okay, I want to get really practical before we start to wind out of this conversation, because I think that there are a lot of leaders out there who are navigating a massive limited capacity. They have big challenges ahead of them. What's one area, Gloria, that you feel like they should focus on to sort of strengthen trust and transparency with funders without fearing that it will jeopardize future support? What kind of counsel would you give there?
That's really hard because I'm on the other side of it, and I'm the one funder that's saying, tell it to me straight, and we'll work through it.
Bless you for it.
So that's not, but I still would advocate for that. I still would advocate for that. And I'll say this, I have there's a organization that I work with, and they make it very clear that they don't take anybody's money. They say the person I work, he says it all the time, I don't take anyone's money. And the reason why he says that is because not all money is good money. Sometimes you might partner with a funder that's just not the right funder for you. Yeah. That's not going to do your organization good. They could do more harm to your organization. So I think it's really important that nonprofits are clear about what they need and support, clear about what they can give, clear about how they can report, in order to make sure it's a relationship that is valuable. As a funder, and I've spoken to a number of funders as well, they value that. They value that authenticity from a nonprofit organization. And I think it's important that we're real when we come to the table with one another, because we're all we got, That's right. Right now there's so many challenges going on. There's so much funding being lost. We just don't have time for news that maybe isn't real, or conversations that aren't real at the end of the day, because we know that if we don't do it right, our community suffers, our members suffer. So I still would challenge nonprofits to be honest, to be real, which, by the way, is one of the employee goals or mandates from us, to be real, to bring your best self to the table at all times.
Gloria, do you have an official fan club, or should we start that right here on the pod?
Fort Collins edition, Fort Collins, Colorado edition, right here.
Yeah, I mean, I love this convo because it goes back to values. It goes back to how we can each do our part. We each have a different role. Everyone listening today has a role to play into this, and just great practical examples too of how to put it into practice. So as we start to wind down, we're obsessed with story here. We've found that everybody has a story of philanthropy that's happened in their life. And it's rarely the big moments. Maybe it's a big moment for you, or maybe it's a small moment where you saw generosity that you would share with us today. What's coming to mind for you?
There's a lot, honestly. Even though my mother, in all her wisdom, my mother raised us solo, me and my 5 brothers and sisters. And I had a sister that was terminally ill for a number of years before she did pass, when she was in her teenage years. And we were a benefit of a number of programs that I now work to support through my funding. So it's a full circle moment for me doing this kind of work. But there is a program called the Visiting Nurse Association, and it's still around. And there was during a time where there were some cuts that happened in our federal government. And my sister, who was in a coma before she passed, her services were mistakenly cut. There was some kind of error. I'm not even sure. I was very young. But the nurse continued to come. She wasn't getting paid, but she continued to come. And she taught my mom, who also had some nursing skills, how to care for my sister who was in a coma. She taught her, it's like, if this happens and they pull me out, you need to know what to do. So she taught her how to suction her, how to change her feeding tube, how to change her and clean her sheets. Like, she taught her all of that, because we weren't sure if her services were going to end. And so having that experience in my life, and doing this work now, and when people say it's life or death, I'm like, you're right. It's absolutely life or death. Sometimes when things happen in our world. And so I don't take it lightly when I'm talking to my nonprofit organizations, the work they're doing, the people they're serving. When I hear the stories of our members and the nonprofits they volunteer with and they give back to, it all means a ton to me because I've experienced it.
Oh, that story hit me so hard in the heart. First of all, do you remember that nurse's name?
Kay Hire.
Oh, you do remember her name. Of course you do. Of course you do.
Of course I remember her.
Wow.
I remember.
I mean, John and I worked 10 years in healthcare philanthropy, and let's just have a hard stop here to talk about the power of quiet service that nurses who are extraordinary professionals and individuals do for our world. So thank you for talking about quiet generosity, people who show up even when they're not getting paid, when they're not getting anything out of it, because we have a call to care as a society. And there are some who hear it and step forward, and there are some that take it and step back. And I just think those who step forward show us what kindness, what community, what expansion and love look like. And that was such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it. And I just think it honors the life and legacy of your sister so much. And we end and we sort of start to wind down this conversation with the one good thing on this podcast. And we wonder what your one good thing is that you would leave with our audience, Gloria. It could be a quote or a mantra that you keep. What's bubbling up for you in this conversation?
Sorry, I'm going to take you guys emotional again, and I can't help it. I just returned from medical leave of absence, and I had an experience that has forever changed me. I know everyone says it, never take anything for granted, never take a day for granted, and I mean it. Every single day that we get to do this work, to be a part of this community is so valuable. So never take a day for granted because you don't know. So I think it's very important that we're always looking out for each other. We're always supporting each other. And there's a lot that's happening in our world that we have enough work to do to support each other.
What a good human you are, Gloria. I'm so glad to know you.
I get back so much more. I get up every day and I'm not ready to do this work. I get up every day and I'm excited to do this work. Like I am walking in my purpose. I know it and I love it. I got the best job at BECU. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like, yeah, you actually do, but I do. I have the best
I
job
feel like
at
this has been a recruiting episode for BECU. I mean, what a nice community.
It is a great place to work. I won't kid.
Well, hey, this is a great transition. How can folks connect with you? I mean, you're such a light. The work that y'all are doing is a light. How can people find y'all online and connect?
It's really, really simple. So I have a small team, myself, Tisha Held, Rafael Cicero. We're on the community a lot. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can email us. We take every call. Every email. We willingly meet with folks. Even if we're not going to fund them, we still meet because everyone deserves an opportunity to tell their story. I found a lot of great partners when I didn't think it was a fit, and it turned out it was an amazing fit. So that's why we take every call and every conversation and we listen because you don't know until you listen.
Oh my gosh, that's the work is listening, is seeing each other. Wow.
You know, I hope listeners are leaving with a sort of renewed strength going into the new year because this transitioning time for the sector is one that if we can lean into it, we can co-build it together. So thank you for modeling that and absolutely rooting for you and the BECU family. Like keep doing more good, my friend.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank you.